Welcome, MG.
Thank you.
The floor is yours. I'm so happy you're back this year again with us.
I think I'm supposed to give this to you, LeWeb.
Oh, thank you so much, Travis. Welcome.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thanks a lot.
All right, so how do we do this, MG?
I don't know. Do you want to sit on
there
the
and
same
I'm
couch?
over here? Or?
I don't know.
We'll do it.
Romantic style? Right here?
I mean, okay. Let's do it.
All right.
All right.
So before we get started, we pulled a little video off the web that we found that I think describes Uber pretty well from Chicago. It's not great quality, but we were going to run it real fast just to give the audience a sense of what Uber actually is.
Okay.
So if we could play that now.
There we go. Let's see what this is. Oh, you can't hear the audio on it. Love the rims. I guess it's, guys, I'll just do a little bit of a talk over here. It's, you basically pull out your smartphone, Android device, iPhone device, and you do what we call at Uber. We say push the button. And once you've done that, a car comes to you, and you can see the car coming to you on the app. We are in the United States, we call this the black car industry or the limo industry. Here, you just refer it generally as sedan service or car service. But that was just sort of a quick demo of how it works.
But so you've actually got huge news today.
Yeah, we have some news.
You did a new logo, which is just fantastic. It's a great logo that represents the 1% perfectly.
Wow.
It's silver and black. It's better than the old red and white one.
MG, I appreciate. I'm glad that you liked our new logo. You must have missed the cars though on the ground in Paris.
No, I didn't miss them.
I think we were looking at our operations dashboard, and
yes,
saw
I've
your
used
name
it
pop up a few times.
Quite a few times. It actually saved me when my girlfriend and I were getting into the city. We were a little bit stranded in the middle of nowhere, had no idea where we were.
Yeah.
Pull open the app, there is an Uber there. So that is actually the big news.
Yeah.
I mean, you're launching Uber Europe and Uber Paris, right?
Yep.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So, I mean, we're literally 18 months into operations as a company, and very few people know this, but I like to give credit to the founding of this company to Paris, because 3 years ago at LeWeb, myself and my co-founder Garrett Camp, we came up with the idea for Uber. And so we like to say that Uber is at least in part a French company. So we launched in Paris. We're officially launching right now. We've had cars on the ground since Friday, which you were able to partake in.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's very exciting. We feel like we're rolling out a transportation system in cities, of course, across the U.S., but starting to do that in Europe as well.
And you said, we were talking about backstage, you said Paris is a really interesting city for you to do also, because in many ways it's more like the initial city, San Francisco, than something like New York or something like that in the way that the city is structured.
Yeah, so a lot of folks, there's the conventional wisdom in the U.S. is, get the U.S. right, do all of your operations and everything in the U.S., spend a lot of time making it good, and then move to Europe and Asia. I think we just take a different tack on that, because our operation is not country-specific, it's city-specific. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that rolling out in Paris is actually much more similar. The transportation systems and the sort of regulatory and transportation culture in Paris, I mean, basically, Paris is like a sister city to San Francisco, and is actually much closer to how San Francisco works than, say, New York is to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And so with that in mind, and then certainly, of course, a sophisticated cloning or copycat industry, I mean, our job is to move and expand as fast as possible. And I think that leads into the second part of news that we're rolling out today, and that is that we just raised a pretty large round of funding.
Right, you come with a lot of meat today. You got a massive round, 32,
well, we closed
39.
Yeah, well, we closed $32 million in funding.
Okay.
The lead was Menlo Ventures.
But it's going to be a little more than that, actually, right?
Yes. So we actually have we have available up to 39.
Oh, okay.
But we've closed 32.
Good.
The Wednesday before Thanksgiving in the U.S. And that was Menlo Ventures with Shervin Pishevar, who I think is going to be hitting the ground in Paris probably tomorrow.
Yeah.
We have Jeff Bezos with Bezos Expedition.
That's great, yeah.
And Goldman Sachs, the major investors. The follow-on, the folks who, existing investors that participate in a material way is Benchmark Capital, who already sits on our board, as well as Lowercase Capital.
So this is going to push your valuation sky high. Hundreds of millions of dollars we're talking now.
Look, our growth is substantial.
Yeah.
I would like to say we sold very valuable shares.
And Goldman Sachs is interesting. I mean, does that mean you guys are already eyeing IPO? Like, why get them involved right now?
Well, look, I think having the financial, like the major financial players sort of up to speed on what we do and interested in what we do is obviously that's good for us and where we're going. A lot of folks ask if Uber ultimately will get acquired, and I'd say, look, we're in this for the long haul. And for the investors, that means an exit that looks more like an IPO than an acquisition.
All right, so countdown to IPO.
I wouldn't say that. We're not quite there yet. We got a ways to go, but that's the path we're on.
So let's talk a little bit about Europe more specifically, since you're actually launching here right now. How does it work compared to the United States? Like, how's the pricing breakdown going to go?
Yeah. So the way pricing works, right? So again, you push a button and a car comes. You can't hail one of these cars, so the pricing is different. But we definitely look at the transportation alternatives. In the States, we're sort of in the 50% to 75% premium on top of taxis. Now, in Paris, you have some interesting nuances. So when you dispatch a taxi and it comes to you, you start getting charged as it comes to you and as it's waiting for you. We don't have that kind of structure in our system. It's when you get in the car. But generally, sort of in that neck of the woods, maybe a little more hefty of a premium, maybe 75%, a little more in Paris. But man, we're pretty excited to be here and pretty excited to be rolling out in this city.
And how many different cars will you have in Paris to begin with?
So we're starting with 60 cars,
nice,
like simultaneous. But really what it comes down to is the number of cars that you have at any given time is always based on the demand. And we can have 500 cars out there, but if we have too much demand, then the experience is no good.
And so
pickup times get too long, there's not enough cars to supply the people that are using it. And so we saw this morning, for instance, everybody trying to get to this conference, people have heard about it. LeWeb posted a video on Friday that sort of changed our plans a little bit. But yeah, so.
How does the process go from kind of getting a driver on board with Uber? Are these taxi drivers? Are these all black car drivers?
Yeah, so black car are essentially private cars.
Yeah.
We work with private car companies. Now, sometimes those private car companies can be companies where there's only one or two drivers. But they can go very big. We have folks that we work with, say, in New York, that are hundreds of cars. And so, a lot of those drivers are actually former taxi drivers. And so we like to think that we're actually expanding opportunity for drivers. One of the lines that we talk about in the U.S. is we give riders high fives, right? They don't get stranded on the Champs-Élysées or in San Francisco in Potrero Hill. They get to their business meetings on time, or maybe date night goes well. So we give riders high fives. We like to say we give drivers hugs, and that's because
that's cute.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, but I get emails all the time from drivers who basically are expanding their ability to make a living.
Yeah. So how does that work for the driver actually? I mean, can they make a living off of Uber itself? They still have to have some kind of secondary income, right? But I assume eventually you want to get to the point where these drivers can make a living for themselves.
I would say a third to half of our drivers are fully dedicated
That's great.
And I wouldn't say they're our drivers. They're the partners that we work with. It's their drivers, but the drivers who are engaging in our system, maybe it's about a third, are fully dedicated. The other 2/3, basically use us as it's what's called a yield management solution, or essentially filling their dead time to help them make a living.
So Paris is obviously the first city to roll out of the Uber Europe rollout. What's next? Like, how many other cities are you looking at? How many do you think you'll do next year?
Well, we're doing, the history of that is that, we started getting good at rolling cities out. We were doing 1 a month in Q4, this quarter actually, of 2011. By 2012, we expect to be doing 2 a month.
Wow. So another potentially like 25 cities next year?
Yeah, so right around 25 cities in the next 13, 14 months. And we really see probably about 15 is just sort of like a quick, when you look at the quick list, short list, there's probably 15 to 20 cities in Europe that make sense, like right out of the gate.
Yeah, that's great.
So.
All right, and you said you might have a little something for the audience that you wanted to share.
We had really bold plans when we first came here. We said, we're going to offer free transportation for every LeWeb attendee for all of LeWeb. And then we saw what happened this morning, which was,
based on one video.
Based on one video from Loic. Thank you, Loic, wherever you are.
You ruined it for everyone, so you can boo him
what I would suggest is, we still want to offer free transportation during LeWeb for a number of folks. So please sign up for Uber, and we're going to go through the list of folks who'd signed up and send out an email letting them know if we can provide discounted, or really we're going to try to provide free transportation to as many people as possible to get around Paris efficiently. It can't go to everybody because the demand is just going through the roof, but we're going to do our best to really get that to as many folks as possible.
That's great.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Travis. Thanks for taking the time.